I'm productive, I'm not complacent, but I'm uncomfortably patient. I'm very fast in the micro, but very slow in the macro. For example, even our global expansion, we've had 4 to 5 substantial moments in the history of our agency where Fortune 50 companies have walked directly into my office and said, if you open these offices in the Middle East and Africa and Brazil tomorrow, we will give you this $80 million in fee, which at one time was double our revenue. And we passed because I knew that we wouldn't be able to pull it off, that it was going to get sloppy, that my culture was going to get ruined. I call that patience.
The VaynerMedia is now, I believe, it's the largest independent agency in the world. Is that true?
I think Widen is probably still big. I mean, we're in the mix. I'm not sure even how that all gets calculated, but it's definitely gotten big.
Yeah, but you've obviously got about 2,000 people now.
Yeah, in VaynerX. So we obviously have a publishing company called the Gallery Media Group. We have a commerce company, a production company. So Vayner, I think, is probably 1,200 or so, but in the VaynerX network, close to 2,000.
And actually it's quite interesting to explain the structure of that business, because obviously VaynerMedia is a major entity in its own right, but you've got a holding company which is VaynerX. Can you just sort of explain why you've structured it that way? You know,
a lot of what this journey for me has been about was not knowing a whole lot about this great industry, and so a lot of it was instinctual. It was, I started off building the company for myself, to be frank. And I still am. I think one of the things I'm most proud of is a lot of the things that we've stumbled into was based on the opening day thesis, which was, what if we built an incredibly capable contemporary marketing company that was global to run other businesses through that I was involved in? Originally, I thought I was gonna buy brands from Fortune 500 CPGs, orphan brands. Mug root beer was always the one that I wanted. I like root beer. But I knew that I had to learn Fortune 500 land. I knew I didn't know big company marketing. I knew that I knew small business marketing because I'd done that successfully. I knew that I knew Silicon Valley well. I was a very good investor in that era. But I knew that I didn't know Fortune 500 land. And I wanted to learn. And I don't really learn by reading, I learn by doing. So, a lot of what I wanted to do was build a company for myself, something that would work, is how my brain worked. And so some of the stuff that we get a lot of credit for now of like being early on bringing media and creative together, well, for someone like me, that was the only way you can do internet marketing if you're gonna do it well. And so that's kind of the journey we went on. So VaynerMedia was built, media and creative together under one house, and away we went. It originally started as community management. It was literally setting up Twitter and Facebook accounts for very big brands. My brother's laptop created the NHL's Twitter account, Campbell's Soup Facebook and Twitter account, Pepsi's Twitter and Facebook account. So it's like kind of fun stories we'll tell our grandkids one day. That evolved into us believing that creative in social was gonna emerge. We took a bet. We got very lucky and fortunate that Facebook's business model changed and they created the feed instead of the wall, which completely accelerated the concept of creative and social. And then from there, what became obvious to me was that both media and creative were, in one man's humble point of view, a little too expensive for big brands to compete with what I was seeing outside of Madison Avenue. And that the cost of production and the media plans were based on potential reach, not actualized reach. And that really got us galvanized to get serious, because I thought there was a better way. We saw it differently. I started to become educated on what was going on in ad land. I understood now, there's a lot of holding companies, they're publicly traded, this is gonna impact a lot of their strategies, and started kind of getting my feet under me 5 or 6 years in, and that's when we got really serious, probably about 6, 7 years ago, where I was like, wow. Originally I thought I was gonna build the agency and actually shut it down and just bring all the people that I wanted to the brands and just run a business. Now, I'm like, wait a minute, I can have my cake and eat it too. I wanna build the largest global independent agency in the world, and we'll shuffle talent between that world and things I do, like VFriends, my Sesame Street Pokemon IP, or Empathy Wines, a direct-to-consumer wine brand that I started with 2 interns from VaynerMedia that we sold to Constellation. Resy, the restaurant app, was an original product built at VaynerMedia with VaynerMedia employees. So it's really cool, like how we've got it now, and now I understand why we're so different. We've got a very different business model, and in a lot of ways I do feel, transparently, with all due respect, that we have our interests more aligned with our clients, because I'm trying to figure out marketing that works selfishly for me for other behaviors versus, the model of trying to run a business where you are trying to do the marketing you believe in, but there's also, the only business model is being a client service provider and having to worry about your revenue and margin. And so I think that's been a competitive advantage in the last decade.
But it's interesting, and so did you start the agency first and then you built a holding company around it? Or did
Yes, I'm sorry, I apologize. Yeah. So 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, there was an opportunity to buy a publishing company called PureWow, which was a top 5 leader in the women's lifestyle publishing game. As all of us know, the rise of Refinery29 and BuzzFeed, we just read that BuzzFeed News shut down, BuzzFeed and Refinery29 and Vice, and I think everyone remembers that era of publishers. I was concerned about that. I thought that was actually, I felt at that point that I knew how to be successful within the context of big holding company media and creative agencies. I was a little worried about publishers 6, 7 years ago, like, wait a minute, they have an advantage. They're taking working media dollars and turning it into creative in a world where I felt creative was an important battleground. And so I wanted to really have a competitive arm in that race. And so I bought PureWow. That immediately forced us to create a holding company. We created at 1:37 p.m. a men's lifestyle publishing firm, and then it started rolling. We started, one day I woke up and said, why are we saying no to 1,000 clients a month who are all small businesses who had context of my career prior to this world? I'm like, we should probably start an agency because Vayner wasn't built for that. I was like, maybe I should start kind of seems like a bad business move to say no to 1,000 people a month. I was like, why don't we start an agency for small businesses? I named it after my dad, which is a lot of fun, and I called that the Sasha Group, and so that's an agency that does the same philosophy, but has different products and services that smaller companies can afford. That became a third. Then we created a production company. I really felt weird. I still feel weird. I still think the production of videos in our industry are way too expensive. I really do. I think 30-second videos are too expensive, especially when I know what people are paying for 30-second videos in startup land and outside of our world. So we started a production company that really tries to tackle, we lose so many triple bids because we're so much less cost. Procurement doesn't think that we're doing the same thing. And I keep trying to tell them it's the same thing. So we call that Iba no Saddam, which is Madison Ave spelled backwards. And so we've built from there. We've got commerce, we've got
oh my God,
innovation.
I mean, my accountant tells me my business is too complicated.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
But actually, I've got one question from Uli Fadid, if I pronounce your name properly. They're saying you're obviously, you've invested a lot in social media platforms, you obviously know it's going to work. Would you ever consider starting your own social media platform?
I don't think that that's what I do. Of course, it's crossed my mind. I bought a version of one that was in the wine world called Corked 12, 13 years ago, created by a great designer named Dan Cederholm, who created Dribble. But, I have thought about some sort of blended version of a small social network that also provided like information. I've called it in my mind like content as a service. So like a SaaS business, but with content that has a social network element, maybe like some sort of lightweight version of a LinkedIn. But I'm not sure I'm gonna ever cross that bridge, but one of my main principles is to be in the maybe business. Mm-hmm. I think no is a very dangerous word. And so I don't sense that that's where I'm going, but I've done a lot of things that I didn't see coming.
Yeah. But do you think that's part of if you're sort of advising other people how to go their, the sort of media come brand business, what are your views on ownership? When would you sort of suggest people should get partnerships or should get help? Or do you believe it's better to keep the equity and build it yourself?
I think if you're capable, you build the equity and keep it yourself. I think everyone's on their own personal journey. I think that this industry desperately needs many more independent agencies at scale. I think it would make the industry so much happier and healthier. That's not a dig at the holding companies. I think the holding companies have done a remarkable business job over the last 40 years. I think it's out of balance. I think 4 to 5 massive global companies that were independent and not publicly traded and not part of the current form of holding companies would be really healthy for the industry. And so, of course, I see the white space. I'm currently building one. It's gonna end up being a very, very, very large business. And I think that there are many young women and men, and not only young, very many men and women in this industry that are capable of starting companies and working for 20, 30, 40 years and building a massive independent agency, because I think there's a white space. I think clients are looking for alternatives, but it needs to be big, right? The big companies need you to be global. And so if someone's got the talent, you stay independent forever. The buyout deals are not good if you're good.
Yeah.
If you're good, the buyout deals that you get from a holding company are bad deals. They make you finance yourself. But most people get tired and most people are scared. Most people have a nice agency and they say to themselves, if I lose my 2 biggest clients, I got nothing. And so this cash out, and it's a tough business, we all know that. So people get burned out. I'm very empathetic to why all these agencies have sold over the last 3 decades. But to answer your question, if you're good enough, you never sell.
Yeah, you never sell. That's interesting. I mean, obviously, because you just mentioned your dream is to buy the jets. It's going to be probably
a lot of money.
billions, isn't it? Yeah, 10 billion.
Well, to me, if I can build a big enough company, I can buy it with the distributions of the profits over 5 years. Why would I sell?
Yeah. And so what would be your long-term, if you were to talk about an exit eventually, would you look at an IPO or would you just, or is this going to be a built to last?
I don't think I'm capable of being a publicly traded CEO. I just don't want to be accountable to anybody. I'd rather lose out on my dream of buying the jets than to go IPO. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to build a big enough business that kicks enough profit, and then I'm going to have to invest that money wisely to give myself a chance.
Yeah.
But to me, I'd rather be happy in my freedom day to day as a businessman and miss out on this childhood goal I had than to compromise my happiness truth be told, gun to head, if the moment comes in 20 years and there's a quick little, I can sell it and then I can buy the jets, that's something I'm gonna have to really talk about. The problem is there's so many videos of me publicly telling all my employees that the day I sell, no matter what I say, you should all resign because I'm full of shit. So that would be like maybe not interesting for someone to buy, So
and that's very unusual, isn't it? Because any business owner, the question they always get asked is, what is your exit plan?
Mine's death. For real. I won't sell it unless truly the Jets thing kind of plays out a certain way. But otherwise, I'm gonna die.
Yeah. Well, talking about dying, I mean, I have to say, looking at your schedule, that would kill me. And if you Google, how many hours a night do you actually sleep?
Oh, I sleep. I mean, I'm not functional, or I mean, I do it unfortunately often enough, but not as much as people think. I sleep 6, 7, or 8 hours a night. I'm a huge fan of sleep. I think I mean it. I think I'm incredibly misbranded on this, even though my words have been consistent for 10 years on this. To me, it's about being effective when you're awake. To me, I don't think people should work hard if they don't like what they do. To me, this is you work hard when you like it. I think that, unfortunately, there's been a couple viral articles written about me, which the people that have written them have come back and been very kind to me over time, that I think when people think I don't sleep or I think you gotta work everything, I'm always confused. I'm not confused. I know my energy. I'm self-aware. I get it. But to me, sleep is an enormous part of my partnership with my happiness and success. I'm always fighting for 7. I'm very, very, very functional at 6. Oh boy, will I be pumped if I can sneak in an 8. And I'm just think that, for example, one thing that kills agencies, mine included, meetings. Meetings are a fucking disaster. There's 12 people in a room when it only needed 5. It's an hour and a half and it could have been done in 20. And so those are the things I think about, which is it's not that I want people to work more, it's not that I don't want people to sleep, it's that I think that there's incredible ways to be dramatically more effective and efficient if we did the thing that needs to be done versus philosophical.
Yeah, so how do you control that then?
I haven't figured it out. I've spoken about it at length.
Because I was speaking to some of your team, and they're saying, a 5-minute meeting you'll do, and
I'm sorry, I've figured it out for me. I'm killing it. I do 30, 15-minute meetings a day. I've really figured it out for me. For the company, I haven't been able to get to the level of efficiency that I think we should be at, given that I'm the CEO and that's the culture. But for me, it's been great. And honestly, it's been really rewarding. I've gotten a lot of emails, specifically in the last year, they were so taken aback, or even one guy wrote me the other day, he's like, I was appalled when I only got 15 minutes for our meeting. He goes, until I realized we were done at 11 meetings and now I do them too. And so like, you know, for a lot of us, you know, I get sad when people feel burned out or tired or like overwhelmed. And a lot of times I'm like, look, this is in a very compassionate way, I'm like, this is a self-inflicting wound. Your insecurity makes you show up to every meeting because you don't want to miss out, thus not giving you time to do the work. Like maybe you should pick some meetings that you don't need to be in and maybe somebody will take some notes. Or a lot of people's insecurities create behaviors that lead to a lot of troubles.
Yeah. I mean, and I agree, but the other thing in terms of your time management, when you look at how much social media put out, I mean, you do obviously a daily video, you're one of the most prolific people I've ever met in terms of amount of content.
Yes.
So how do you manage a business at the same time as managing your personal branding?
Because I created infrastructure, right? My team's filming this video right now. I mean, if you look very carefully at my content, I don't make content. I'm being filmed, and then we post-produce it. To your point, like we run a lot of analytics on this. I am one of truly the most prolific output producers in the world. I'm producing on every platform. But it's because I have a 25-person full-time team on the production of it. First, that started with 7 years of just me doing it myself. Then I got to a place where it built to where I could afford one person in 2014, and I kept building and building and building. But I don't produce content. I live my life as an operator. There's things that I do as an operator like this that are great for me in the industry, and that will be filmed and then it's caught, but I'm not producing content.
Yeah.
I'm posting the content. We have a full workflow in WhatsApp. Like I'm posting right now you haven't seen an Instagram from me for the last 5 hours because I've been busy, so Daisy's driving me crazy and putting me everywhere and I gotta be this and that and this, and I'm like, I'm sorry, Daisy. Yeah. And like, you know, but once I get off with this and I transition, only because I was in the tube downstairs, I didn't have Wi-Fi, but if we were in a taxi cab, I would have done it in that downtime. So I'm still a practitioner of the craft. The copy on social media creative is something this industry desperately does not understand. What's so fun about the life I'm living is as I've become more a historian of the ad industry over the last 100 years, VaynerMedia is just doing the same thing in just different distribution form. A lot of our model is built on what actually worked in the 50s, 60s, and 70s with local newspaper, local radio, you know, like media and creative together. It's funny, I'm like, whoa, my God, actually what we do was done for 40, 50, 60 years. It was only the early 90s when things started to really change in this industry, separation, this, that. So it's kind of been very romantic and exciting to me that I feel like, we're looking at this enigma, or different, or this, and I'm like, actually, I have a funny feeling we're doing it the way it was intended to be done.
Yeah, I know, but the other interesting thing is the business, your personal brand is such a big part of what you do. There's a question coming, someone saying, is a founder-led agency the way to success? I suppose what they're really saying, can others learn from how you built your agency? Would you suggest other people wanting to build a successful marketing business should look at the personalities?
For the people in this business, this will probably land with you because you probably know. I would argue the Gary Vee of it all has not done me any favors with VaynerMedia. I would argue that Gary Vaynerchuk, me the actual businessman and operator, has been a way bigger impact on VaynerMedia doing well than Gary Vee. This industry wasn't overly warm and welcoming to the concepts coming out of my mouth over the last decade. And I actually respect that. Why? I was already trained for that. It was called my 15 years in the wine business. The opinions and thoughts I had about democratizing wine were met very negatively by the wine business. My point of view that everyone here should drink what they like and explore different things instead of being dictated what they should drink was a big passion I had that was incredibly not well accepted in the wine business. My belief that wine was too intimidating and people were overthinking it and we needed to humanize it was, believe it or not, incredibly ridiculed in the early days of my career because I was not respectful to the wine. Then I got into the ad world and I was not respectful to the work. I have bet my career and my professional life on caring about the humans in mass versus the industry that pretends to care about the humans in mass.
Yeah, it's interesting. But what would you think, when the sort of I mean, the business is such a big part of what you're doing. In fact, Julie Cohen just asked this question. It's quite morbid, really. But she's saying, obviously, this business is you. But how important is legacy? If you're not going to sell a business on.
Legacy is the only thing I'm trading on here. Mm-hmm. If I was trading on money, we would sell television and programmatic.
Yeah.
We've left an extraordinary amount of money on the table the last 13 years. I'm only doing this model to be historically correct. Every agency in advertising in 15 years will look a lot more like us than us looking like the agencies today.
Yeah. The other issue is you're so busy. Because I did actually enjoy your book, 12 and a Half. It talked about the emotional attributes of being a successful business. But one of the key things you spoke about was patience.
Yes.
And you strike me as the least patient person
I've
ever met.
That's because I think patience is misunderstood. Mm-hmm. I'm productive. I'm not complacent, but I'm comfortably patient. I'm very fast in the micro, but very slow in the macro. And so, for example, even our global expansion, we've had 4 to 5 substantial moments in the history of our agency where Fortune 50 companies have walked directly into my office and said, if you open these offices in the Middle East and Africa and Brazil tomorrow, we will give you this $80 million in fee, which at one time was double our revenue. And we passed because I knew that we wouldn't be able to pull it off. That it was going to get sloppy, that my culture was going to get ruined. I call that patience. And so I'm busy and productive on a day-to-day basis, but on a year-to-year basis, the way I strategize to build this business has been very patient. I believe in patience so much. I think people are so quick to get the money, get the accolades, prove to somebody that hurt their feelings along the way that they made it, and take that. I'm a big fan of patience. I spent the first 12 and a half years of my career building my father's liquor store business for him, never getting paid more than $100,000 a year, and I built his business from $3 to $75 million, and at 34 years old, started VaynerMedia in Buddy Media's conference room because I had no money to pay for rent. So when I tell kids be patient, I spent the first 12 years of you know how good those 12 years of your career are in your 20s and early 30s, especially when you got it like me? Those are profound years where you can work all the time and all this. And I deployed unreal patience on an ideology that mattered to me, which was I wanted to give back to my parents for what they gave to me. And so, I didn't even start my career until I was 34.
Yeah, that was really good. I must encourage my son to build my business. Talk about that later. What I quite enjoyed about your book is obviously, is trying to look at the emotional traits. And in fact, I think Cyril, I hope I'm pronouncing it properly, asked a question along those lines. How much does company culture impact on your success? And how do you manage to keep a strong culture while growing the business?
Oh, sure, the biggest reason I feel like we're gonna win is we have better company culture than who we're competing with. And not because we're better people, though maybe that is it. A lot of it has to do with we have an enormous advantage. When you are independent, you can do what I did do in 2016, 17, and 18, which is make no profit. And when you're a publicly traded company and part of a holding network, I would have been fired by delivering no profit. So it's funny, I have very little judgment or negative points of view on the holding company model. I'm too empathetic I'm a businessman, I understand. But company culture's the whole thing. It's the punchline. Our longevity. Raisa, how long have you been at Vayner?
11 years.
Ben?
8 years.
We're a 13-year company and we have ungodly amounts of employees that have been at the company for 8, 9, 10, 11 years. That's unheard of in this industry. We have hundreds of people that have been here 5, 6, 7 years. That's unheard of.
Yeah. What's the secret sauce? How do you... 2
things. 1, make less money. Value the humans over the P&L. So when we lose a client, you don't fire people because they were on it. You take less profit that year. That's unheard of in this fucking industry. Number 2, fire people. Let me explain that part. The thing that we've done very well that has really gained a lot of trust over the years is I fire people that are great at their job and make us lots of money, because they're not nice. You want to build company culture, fire the asshole that's bringing in revenue and watch how fast people start to trust you. But most people don't do that. Most people look the other way if a creative director can win a lot of pitches. Most people look the other way. Don't look the other way.
Good. I'll be for HR department. But the other, I mean, talking of less money, I mean, obviously we've been touching BuzzFeed News, and there's a bit of a sort of economic chilly wind blowing to the market at the moment. However, you seem to be growing.
Well, that's because we're a price leader. You know, we're a better priced agency because we make. You know, the dirty secret of this industry is creative agencies are consultants. It's a real brain twist. I didn't even realize it until not too long ago. I was like, wait a minute. Every creative AOR sells decks. You have to outsource the production. And this was like, it hit me. You know, I was, you know, I've had my point of views. I've been in the business. It just hit me one day. I was like, maybe that's like what's like at the crux of this, is that the ideas are too expensive. And so for us, we give you the ideas, but we also produce creative and produce output every day at scale, which is a requirement in the consumer journey, because I think the industry has not come to grips with a very significant truth, which is the lower funnel, social, is actually the upper funnel. That brand is now being built in social in a significant way, for real. And this industry will hold on to that not being true as long as humanly possible. But I think as brands now are trying to not waste money, people are gonna start losing market share to companies that have better pricing models and are able to produce creative in a much more thoughtful way. And I think that's gonna rear its head quite a bit over the next half decade.
Yeah, well, we'll also talk about sort of building brands and the work itself. I mean, Adam Klein's got a question. He wants to know, what piece of work is VaynerMedia most proud of?
Any piece of work that actually achieved the goal at hand, right? So the pre-work to killing Mr. Peanut on Planters is work I'm incredibly proud of. Because as we did the social creative that gave us the consumer insights, that proved to us that nobody cared about Mr. Peanut anymore in America, that led to the brief, that led to the creative idea of killing him, while we were going through that journey day in and day out in our social creative, that creative itself was being consumed so much that it created much more consideration and purchase. And after 12 years of a brand declining. See, what's very unusual about Vayner is we don't trade on the same proxies that the industry does. On the media side, we don't believe the MMAs. We don't believe the MMMs. We don't believe the brand lift studies. On the creative side, we don't believe in the headlines or the awards as the justifier. We believe in the business results because that's what advertising's supposed to do. So the work I'm most proud of is the work that has actually driven business. And we've done that over and over and over to the point now where maybe not the industry, like when I walk through Cannes in a couple weeks, I don't think people are like, wait a minute, they're on, but boy, in the trenches of the CEOs and CFOs of the biggest brands in the world, this conversation is looming. And it's helping us grow quite a bit.
Yeah, so you're basically trading on effectiveness and trading price. But Georgina Elliott has asked, what do you, because obviously we are in a bit of an economic downturn at the moment. Hopefully it's not going to be, hopefully it'll be short-lived. But she's saying, what do you regard as the biggest threat to your business?
My health is real, that's it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I mean that, and thank you, Risa. We have unlimited threats. AI in a decade after we're done figuring out trademark and copyright issues, we'll be able to create creative at a scale that we could never compete with. It'll be accessible to everyone. There's an extraordinary amount of young talent that is 18, 19, 20, and 21 that think nothing I say is profound. They think it's mundane, meaning they're like, of course. And so all of those individuals will be worthy competitors. If a coconut falls on my head and changes my personality and allows me to take my eye off the ball, that could be bad.
Mm-hmm. And what about the industry as a whole? What do you think are the major sort of opportunities and threats to the industry as a whole?
Oh, the industry has got a lot of threats. We have to come to grips with this conversation. Creative's too expensive. Media is trading on potential reach, not actualized reach. Activist investors are super pissed off about how much money is being wasted on marketing, and so they're going to come in and buy the Procter and Gamble's and the Pepsi's and and change the way marketing is done.
Do you think they've been criticised for being maybe basically too woke, I suppose, for want of a better word, haven't they? They're focusing on purpose rather than building shareholder value. Do you think that's fair?
No, I think building on purpose has the chance to create, I think brands being thoughtful about what consumers care about is a good ideal. I think the reason brands are in trouble is they're wasting too much money on potential reach and too much money on creative. Marketing is not effective in our industry. We have to wrap our heads around that. The market share that small brands that are VC backed, that are picking up on an everyday basis on the biggest brands in the world is a real conversation that's going to really become pressure filled over the next decade. I think this industry is filled with brilliant strategists and creatives who the industry itself sucks out their creativity over time because they make them conform into distribution models that make no sense today. So, I think the industry is very vulnerable. And by the way, the proof is in the pudding. You have companies like me that came out of nowhere doing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. You have in-housing happening at super scale. There's a reason this shit's happening.
Yeah.
It's called the reverse of what's working for us. Shit's too expensive and it's not effective enough.
Yeah, and what's driving that?
And by the way, I just want everybody to hear this, but the principles stay the same. For example, the creative is the variable of success. Ideas and creativity are the punchline of this whole thing. The process of how we get to those ideas is the problem with our industry. It should not take us 9 months to come up with a 30-second video that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars to then be distributed for millions of dollars through a fucking television commercial. It is 2023. Enough. And then matching the luggage on programmatic digital, and then the occasional half-assed social media post. This industry is broken, with all due respect.
Yeah, and obviously social is redefining it.
And by the way, I have no emotion towards social. Social just happens to be the distribution platform right now where there's underpriced attention and opportunity. If I was sitting here 20 years ago, I'd be yelling about Google AdWords and email. This is just about where is the consumer's attention. And by the way, I think the Super Bowl ad is the best buy in advertising. That is an $8 million media buy on a 30-second video. Best buy in advertising because it's actually consumed. I think outdoor billboards are great when you can buy them remnant in between two big buys and you don't have to pay $40,000 a month for it. You can buy it for $2,000. I think drive time radio with some of its pricing today is a very interesting place to buy. I think Spotify's read-only ad is remarkable. And I think you can waste all your money on social media if you don't do it well. This is not blanket statements. This is, do you know where the underpriced attention of the consumer is? And then do you know the craft of making the creative to fill it? The problem is television's overpriced. And by the way, the television that this industry holds so near and dear is gone in a decade. Streaming and connected TV and fast channels are 5 minutes away from tearing it all down. So what are we gonna do then? We're gonna buy upfronts on biddable digital television? It's ludicrous. We have to come to grips. Listen, I don't care. I prefer no one comes to grips with anything I'm saying here. Back to earlier, before we started with the beans, everything I'm saying will come true. I'm thrilled if everyone still holds on to the past. It's better for me personally. I just would like to see this industry happier and better. There's so many people sitting at their desks knowing what I'm saying is true, working on work that's soulless. That's not fun, that's not good for anyone. It's not good for anyone. I would much rather have 6 or 7 real VaynerMedia competitors. I really would. I'd be thrilled because we're gonna get ours, we're good enough. I just think a lot of people in our industry would be happier. This is not a happy industry. It is not.
Yeah, and if agencies are going to shift the dial quickly, where should they be focusing their attention?
Creative and social.
Yeah.
Every creative agency of record in the world that matters, the Drogas, the Widens, all these incredible shops, 72 and Sunny, every one of them grossly disrespects creative and social. If they even do it, it's matching luggage to the above the line work and it's going to be their demise.
Yeah. And what do you think is the most exciting trend in social in terms of the platforms emerging? What's next?
That the algorithms are so strong, they're giving you consumer insights to make your marketing even better when you do good marketing.
And the one that does that best of all really is TikTok, isn't it?
100%.
And do you think TikTok could be banned in the US or?
That's way above my pay grade.
Yeah. Should it be? I mean, do you think that sort of the fears are
every normal human I talk to when they have, because I do the content I do, I'm like literally walking in the streets of New York and people are coming up to me like, TikTok. I'm like, whoa. They're like, it should be banned. I'm like, fine. Like ban it. I don't give a shit. To me, that means a lot of attention's gonna go somewhere else and I'll be ready for that attention. You can ban all of social media. That would be great for me because that's a lot of attention that would have to recalibrate somewhere, and our biggest strength is knowing where the attention's going. So, I don't really have a horse in the social media race. I have a horse in actual consumer behavior. Actual, not the ideology that we'd like it to be based on the way we built our businesses.
There's also so many businesses being built through TikTok. Of course. It'd be pretty catastrophic for short term anyway.
Yeah, but they'll go to other platforms. Like the attention's not, it's not like TikTok gets banned and then everybody wakes up who consumed TikTok and said, let me go buy a newspaper.
But talking about the other area which has been interesting is how politics is using social, isn't it?
Every politician that's winning every race is the one who's winning on social. It's where the attention of the consumer is, like it or not. By the way, I don't like it. I wish this was 1965. I would make my nice little TV commercial, run a little radio, do some print, leave at 5 o'clock, get a cocktail.
Yeah. Become a famous creative director.
Yeah, I would be crushing it.
But
it's just not 1965.
But maybe as we sort of we're sort of running out of time, maybe just a couple more questions
Please.
from the audience. Anonymous, I hope that comes properly, is asked, how are you navigating media buying in social longer term in a world where these dollars are less effective due to the deprecation of third-party cookies, etc.?
That's a great question. So, what's so funny was social media buying was so effective pre-iOS 14.5, yet everyone said it wasn't. Now everyone's like, what are you doing now that it's not? And I laugh, I'm like, they're like, you don't have cookies now. I'm like, you mean like television? You mean like all the digital bullshit that people buy? In the black boxes that the agencies have created to maximize their margin? What are we doing? We're doing smart business. We're running unlimited social creative that is smart. No Happy Tuesday, no picture and blah. Like the mailing it in of social media creative that this industry does is laughable. We do strategic creative on social that takes into effect the platforms, the way the algorithms work, culture, the whole nine. When we then have virality or over-indexing on both quant and qual, we then run paid performance against creative that we know is effective. And so we've had incredible effectiveness in a post-iOS 14.5 because creative is the variable of success. This is what I keep trying to tell my creative friends. I'm like, friends, it's better than it's ever been. Creative's getting more and more and more important. It's just the production value doesn't mean it's good creative. The cost of it doesn't mean it's good creative. The ideology of the last 70 years doesn't mean it's good creative. In a form that looks like a commercial, definitely means it's not a good piece of creative. Yet we hold on to that. So for us, our social media spend and allocation from our clients is growing, but that's because we have such a commitment to creative.
That's good. And another good question actually, which almost brings us full circle. Again, it's from Adam Klein's second question from Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, and this does bring us full circle slightly. How do you navigate the owner-founder syndrome where clients want to buy you, but you don't necessarily have the time?
I've never sold me from day one.
Mm-hmm.
I've been very upfront with clients from the day we started this company. This is VaynerMedia. I don't do consulting. This is my agency. I'm the CEO. I'm thrilled to join meetings. I'm in the dirt. I'm very proud that I'm good at the craft that my agency sells. It's a huge advantage for me that I really sense in the marketplace. The thing we do for a living, creative and media, in social, predominantly going up the ladder. We do plenty of creative AOR work and media AOR work as well, but the craft, I'm a practitioner of, right? I'm not an accountant, right? I'm not a CFO.
Yeah, but you still need to meet the clients. You're obviously
Of
heading off
course.
in the moment to see a client, and
Yeah, I love meeting clients, but I'm incredibly upfront. Like, I don't manage this account. I'm not doing the work. I'm bat phone for all my clients, but I think the industry would be stunned how little interaction I have with clients day to day.
And the other thing to sort of get again, you know, you're the CEO of VaynerMedia, you sort of running the business, obviously that's what you love doing. Your dream is to buy the jets, but you said your other big plan was to sort of buy brands and then flip them.
Yes.
What brands would you look at?
Well, mug root beer, if you're listening, Pepsi, is always a dream of mine. I really like root beer. I don't know, you know, I think that will come in time.
Well, what about Tupperware? That'd be a good one.
Mug root beer.
Tupperware.
What's top root beer?
Tupperware.
What's the best root beer?
No, Tupperware, the brand.
Oh, the Tupperware, yeah.
Yeah.
That was up, I know that was available.
It's going cheap.
I know that was available. So it's really interesting. One of the other reasons I have a lot of confidence in our model is many of the private equity firms, the biggest ones in the world, and hedge funds are incredibly active with me on the conversation of marketing. And so I'm aware of a lot of these deals that are brewing out there. Yeah, I just don't like Tupperware.
Mm-hmm, yeah. But what would your criteria be? You look for
A
something.
nostalgic brand. Like what's going on with Crocs right now, I love that story. Like that's always gets me going. Lacoste years ago, if you all remember, right? Like show me a brand that once crushed, has been dormant for 20 years, and I'll show you something I'm genuinely interested in. I tried to buy animal crackers from Mondelez a decade ago. I had such a good concept. It actually became VFriends. My concept with animal crackers was to actually build on the characters, reformulate the cookies to be healthier on trend, and really build up the elephant and the lion, which is ironic. I hadn't thought about that in a while, but that's what ended up happening when I had a chance with NFTs and create intellectual property. I went right to that same place. I thought, that's like, those kind of brands really get me going. Show me, you know, Jolly Green Giant. You know, I'm very grounded. It's why I think mascots is still one of the biggest misses in our industry. I think we should be doing a lot more mascot work. I think we kind of got fancy and thought that was like a model that's not as good, but the IP value is tremendous. I can mention 20 mascots of brands right now and people are gonna feel something. I can mention 40,000 commercials that were made that nobody's ever heard of. Right, so something to think about.
Yeah, and do you think other agencies should replicate this? Say rather, you know, we're building our own business. Now our skills are transferable, maybe we should actually own the IP rather than just work for clients.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you can, you should. I mean, it's a better business model, but I mean, I think, again, the thing with our industry is that predominantly any industry, any agency of meaningful scale is now part of a publicly traded company, and it's gonna be hard to do that business model when you have to maximize profit for Wall Street stock price.
Yeah, and we're just about out of time, but maybe sort of, I'm just wondering what the last questions should be. We'll go for a very generic one. Two questions. What would you say is your biggest regret so far, and what do you say is your biggest triumph?
My biggest regret is that only in the last 2 or 3 years have I become wildly aware that candor was a huge weakness of mine, which is wild because in this setting and this format, when I'm just speaking to the industry or to the world, my candor is incredible. But when I'm talking to an individual human, especially one that works for me and I care for, I really struggled with delivering bad news or candor. And my regret is that Vayner is 13 years old and there are a dozen or 2 or 3 individuals who do not have a good taste in their mouth about me. When people judge me because I'm obviously known now and they don't know me, I can only be so hurt by that. I'm too empathetic to why they, you know, when a competitor of mine's like, he's bad, I'm like, no shit. You know, like I get that concept, but realizing that candor has been a struggle for me and kind of, you know, really realizing how big of a deal that was and rebranding it to kind candor.
Yeah, not tough love.
Not tough love, kind candor. Because I think people use candor as an excuse to be cruel, as an excuse to manipulate, as an excuse to like zing people. So I always demonized it. But realizing that candor was a weakness and that there are some people who never were really warned enough or talked to enough or managed up enough and then were surprised by their firing because of my inability to be candorous is my greatest disappointment. My greatest triumph is that on the reverse, 90%, 87%, 91% of the interactions that humans have had with our organization have incredible tastes in their mouth, are still in the company, have fondness. I get incredible joy of how quickly people try to come back to VaynerMedia after leaving us to go somewhere else. Not because I'm like, ha ha ha, like more just like we're doing it right if this many people are doing that. I think we are going to build the single most successful agency of all time, and we're gonna do it by being kind to each other, which is unfortunately a rarity in this industry.
That's great. Well, that's maybe a very good note to end on.
Yes, cheers.
Gary, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I wanna answer Mark D's question. How do you strip the cost out of your video production? By not hiring as many expensive people as possible and then selling to the client a multiple of their fee and actually making the video at the lowest possible cost you can with great talent. The industry is built on having high salary individuals and then billing them back out to clients on a multiple against that high salary. It's not, the agenda is not the quality and price against that quality work. The agenda is to maximize your revenue based on multiplying the hourly cost against the people. Almost every agency is built like an upside down triangle. Put as many senior people on the business as possible so you can sell a multiple against it. We build almost everything like a Christmas tree or a triangle. Put very capable, in the trenches, senior people that can lead an incredible team that will cost you less, and then you can produce more and you can produce better at a lower cost. That's how. You know what, I guess I'll say this and then I should probably go. I love this industry. I'm an incredibly proud member of it. I'm very honored. I'm aware that I quote unquote see it different. That doesn't come from a place of audacity or disrespect. It comes actually from a place that's reverse. 5 years ago at Cannes, somebody came up to me at 2 o'clock in the morning after drinking way too much rosé and started to berate me in the middle of the street and started yelling, "You don't care about the work. You don't care about the work. You don't care about the work." And after the fourth time I stopped and I said, "My friend," I said, "brother, I'm the only one that cares about the work." And it stopped him and he's like, and I was like trying to explain to him, I'm obsessed with creativity. I am creative. If you look at my career, I am creative. I think that we've defined creativity in this industry in a very poor way. I do not believe 30-second videos that look like commercials are creative in 2023. I'm trying to liberate the remarkable talent of this industry to actually become creative again. And so I just want to say thank you to all the people that, you know, are in this industry. I love being part of it, but like, I encourage us to have different conversations.